Well, greetings, Cousin Debbie. It's Cousin Larry here. Just received your letter a couple days ago with your highlights, some events of 2025. Uh, Really nice eyes too. I can actually read it. It's comforting. Also impressed with your riding on a camel. That's pretty cool. And nice pictures here. Unfortunately, I haven't been around enough to know really who everybody is in this photograph. So, not that I need to know. It's just nice to know that you've still got family and friends around and having a good time. I just recap our year a little bit. January was about normally a winter time and not much outdoor activity. Rainey and I were just at home doing stuff. She was still having trouble digesting food, which has been going on. We're not digesting, reacting to food, intolerance to food, especially the tomato plant family. And so avoided a lot of things that had tomato in them. Anyways, her frustration with intolerance to food was just gradually increasing, and so it was in January. But other than that, no big things to highlight. February, we wanted to take our granddaughter Megan. She lives down in Yakima, about 3 hours from us, up to Victoria, British Columbia. That's where we'd gone when we lived out on the Olympic Peninsula many times, and it was a place that we loved. Not overrun with tourists, but basically historical structures and things were just there, and you could walk through them. So we thought Megan would really enjoy that for her 30th birthday. So that was February, scheduling that. On February 26th, Renee and I celebrated our 58th wedding anniversary. Just as simple, we went out to dinner and then had a few friends over for a visit. Um, then in early March, we were going to take Megan, our granddaughter, to Victoria. But in early March, I botched this, sorry. So after February ended, we are still planning the trip to Victoria with Megan about the middle of March, which we did. Went over the Black Mole Ferry, and there's some photos taken on that ferry when Granny Jones was alive, sitting there with some of the others and my mom. So that ferry's been running for a long time. Anyway, we got on that and went over, and Victoria was not the same as we remembered it. There was a big historical museum, if you would, and it was so interesting and fast to go through. We took Megan in, it was a total dud. And it turned out that they were intending to tear the building down, but COVID stopped it. So it was there, but the displays and everything were basically gone. So that was a poor start off. And then we went to the Empress Hotel, which we've always enjoyed. It's just grander style. Had been purchased by another company, and they were improving it, is probably the term they would use. But it took away the charm for us. The main entrance was no longer used, and hallways and some things were changed inside. And that's their right, it's their building, but it wasn't the building we remembered. And then we went to Chinatown on a little walk-on ferry boat, and Megan was just totally uninterested in everything there. And we were disappointed because Chinatown had really shrunk, and a lot of places where stores were just closed. So it wasn't the kind of excitement we thought we could get for it. And so we did do some dining out and things, and we went to teas and that stuff, which she seemed to enjoy. But we have to remember that we're a lot older than she was, 45, 50 years older. And what we enjoyed is not what she enjoys in today's world. So it wasn't the trip that we had hoped it would be. When we got back, Spokane Digestive, we contacted Renee and said, "You're due for your upper GI tract exam," because she had some issues there in past years. So every year they would do a scope down in the stomach and back up. And anyway, the doctor then went on a 2 week vacation. When she came back, they called, schedule appointment for Rena to see her for follow up after the exam had been done. And when Rena went in, the exam was normal. The upper tract looked pretty good, but Rena was in a lot of pain, a lot more pain than she'd had in January. And the doctor was quite concerned and said, "We need to do a CAT scan." So That was scheduled, but so many people having CAT scans, it took 2 weeks after that doctor visit before the CAT scan could be done. And then another day before the results. And when the results came in, there was a growth on the pancreas. So that led then to the next thing is it cancer or not? And the way you find out is a biopsy. Um, and that occurred in April because now we're that far along waiting for things to happen. And it's scheduled out in the doctor. And what they do is go down through your mouth into your stomach and then go off to the side of the stomach that's over that part of the pancreas where the image showed there was a growth and take 3 needle samples and take that up. And it was sent to a lab and came back as cancerous for sure. So then a couple more CAT scans for the surgeon to look at to see if the surgery could be an issue or it could be something useful. And that came back and I was scheduled for a week later to visit with that surgeon. When we saw him, he said, there's nothing we can do. It's stage 4 and it has spread. So, we asked, first off, we're surprised. We had nobody sit down and say, this is what happens with this kind of cancer. So he was, everybody vacated with just him and us in the office. And Reed said, well, how do you know it's spread? And so he got the CAT scan out on the monitor and went through it and said, see these things here and here and here? I'm 99% sure that's cancer. But we can schedule surgery, go take a biopsy of a few of those to find if that's true or not. But he said, over all my years doing this, it's 99% sure that's cancer there. It's just pieces gone to the outer wall that area. So then they scheduled us for oncology for chemotherapy, which is chemotherapy. And he had Dorothy and myself and John and Kimberly and Carrie were there with us to hear what the oncologist had to say. And he looked at it and he said, we could give you chemotherapy, but it wouldn't help anyway. It would just prolong more pain. He said, this is beyond what chemotherapy can fix. So then they gave us some pretty strong painkillers and sent us home. After home about 3 days, Rainey had gotten worse and they got her digestive system was shutting down. Basically, she couldn't get the food through. Ended up taking her to the hospital where she was in for 2 days. And at the end of the stay, they said, we're going to refer you to hospice. This is the end of the line. So hospice came the last 3 days of June, I believe it was, and sat down. And one of the questions we had visiting with them was, well, how long is this? And they said, we estimate 4 to 5 days before she passes. That's how fast this was going. So set that up and we put the hospital bed in the living room that we had for Rainey's dad. And that's where she spent her last days because it was easy to get around. And we were in charge. Jonathan and I ended up being in charge of the medications. Dorothy was struggling. She was struggling to really help, so she left. And I don't hear well, so I asked Jonathan to visit with the nurses and doctors because I didn't want to miss anything. I talked to him afterwards. Well, I didn't think about it, but that put a lot of stress on him in a very stressful time. So tough time there. Anyway, she made it to July 9th. The medication, pain medicine was so strong that we couldn't really communicate. So just occasional eye blinks or something. They told us that hearing was the last thing to go. So we did a lot of talking to her and playing music, hymns and stuff she enjoyed. So on the 9th of July, at 10:30 at night, she passed away, and you know that. So then, now you face the rest of life with a big change, a major change that wouldn't go back. Reedy and I bought cremation insurance years ago, so she was cremated. Because I'm a veteran, we could be buried at a veteran cemetery, and they have I can't remember the thing, but it's a wall of niches in it where your ashes can go. And so we took her ashes out after cremation, to the cemetery, and they were placed in there, and you get to write with some restrictions what can be on the plaque that goes over that wall space. So we did that. Had the memorial service in, can't remember the date, but anyway, that was all happened. We had about 450 people come to the memorial service, and another 105 viewed it via internet streaming, which was comforting, and lots of nice messages read. So now we're facing, what do we do now? Well, I don't need women's clothes, obviously, so invited some friends, and Dorothy and Kimberly and Carrie, and said, what clothes you want, please take them. And so about half of the clothes that we we collected from all over the house, put it in a room, and folks went through it. About half of them, friends and acquaintances came and took, and the rest I took to Goodwill. Then I have an issue with the roof. Well, an issue. The roof on the house is 31 years old, and I found a product that I could paint over it that would seal it and keep it in its generally good shape. So I had started that in April, working in when so you can't put it on when it's raining. You can't put it on outside certain temperature ranges, and it's a very thick product, and it took lots of effort to roll it on that roof. So it all stopped working on the roof towards Reenie's end the last month and a half. And now she's passed, and it's hot, so I can't work on it unless it's fairly early in the morning or fairly late in the evening. Fortunately, we didn't have any rain showers, so I could work on it. It wasn't wet. I could paint the stuff on, roll it on when the temperatures were all right, and ended up completing that in the end of September, 1st of October. The project was completed. So that was my big project for the summer. Then I moved where I was sleeping out of the master bedroom back to the handicap bedroom where Reenie's dad was. Excuse me. Because it's more convenient for me, and I didn't want to change the main bedroom. It's now the guest room, but I wanted it as Reenie left it with her colors and photos and everything there, just to go in and sit and look at it sometimes. So that's how life's going on. Jonathan, my youngest son, decided he lives next door, but he decided he'd move down and live in the home here with me so I wouldn't be by myself, and that's been a big help. He works remotely via computer with the company he works for, so he just works down here, doesn't have to go anywhere, and that helps a lot. Sorry about the cold. We need to bring his dog down, a German Shepherd. She was up at his house next door, and she would just whine because we weren't there to see her. So I looked at satellite dog collars so he can set electronic boundaries and all that. None of them work because when she gets excited and so energetic, she goes like 20 miles an hour. By the time the collar would say you've reached the border, she was past it. So that didn't work. Now fences didn't work. It takes at least a 6-foot high fence and sometimes a wire over the top to keep it from going over it. Amazing dog. Anyway, so I decided the only thing we could do was put a dog run, which is to string a cable between the porch, from porch where she could come up on the porch, and out to a tree so she can go out across the yard. Sorry about this coughing, since I don't talk so much so often. Anyway, that was okay, but it turned out my idea of what it would take was a lot less than required. So I hung this cable, this 1/4-inch steel cable, between the porch and a tree 100 feet away, and put a pulley on the porch with a connector where you could hook a rope that went around to her collar. It was about a 25-foot piece of rope, so she had a lot of room to run in. About the third day she was out there, something excited her, and she took off after it and reached the end of the rope, and that put a big jerk on that cable, and that cable pulled the post off the porch. Turns out it was rotten at the bottom, so not all that surprising, but here was my cable dog run already destroyed. So I had to spend a day putting a temporary post in and hooked it all back up. 3 days later, the post had been turned. So I realized just the way I had it up there was not enough. It had to be really bolted to stay in place. So that's finally succeeded and she's contained now. Uh, November time, Dorothy and Kimberly Carey came over. Dorothy's daughter, Kimberly Carey, her nephew, or my nieces, they all live near each other over in Tacoma, around Seattle. And they came over mid-February to have an early Thanksgiving because Dorothy's husband and family were having a regular Thanksgiving and she couldn't be both places. So they came early to see us and then they had Thanksgiving in Seattle with other folks. So we went up to Calgary for Thanksgiving, Alberta, at an actual town called Priddis where Larry Jr. and Stacy and family live. And had Thanksgiving there. Then I realized that Canadians have Thanksgiving in October, not November. So they were kind enough to tolerate us being out of season with that. Anyway, had 3 good days up in Calgary and then back home. So I got back, I got your letter and just thought I'd share a little bit about what's going on. Probably not ever likely to see you in this lifetime in person, but there's always video conferencing or something if it comes up. Anyway, hope this isn't too boring. Appreciate your care and your card and stuff. And hope you have good holidays, good Christmas, and that next year is a good year for you with your family. And thanks for staying in touch, Cousin Larry.